It was way back in August of 2012 and Aaron was having some medical issues. He seen the doctor and was later mistakenly diagnosed with pneumonia. He thought that was the end of that and began moving on with his life. Little did he know that the cogs had already been set in motion and soon his life would change forever. Come November, the symptoms had returned with a vengeance. Reeling in pain and finding it hard to breathe, he returned to the doctor, who was truly confounded. It was very strange to have gotten pneumonia twice in such a short period of time. He was referred on to a pulmonologist who, after a CT scan, found what he thought was blood clots in Aaron's lungs. After several weeks in hospital, he was released. Having been ordered to, Aaron returned for a second CAT scan 3 months later. Unfortunately, the news was not good. Whatever was in his lungs had not gone away. They had in fact continued to grow. Tissue samples were ordered, taken and tested, but only showed some inflammation. Questions were asked and heads were scratched. A second round of tissue samples were ordered and performed by a seasoned veteran. He too returned a result of inflammation. All the while, Aaron continued to cough up more and more blood. His breathing restricted and his lungs deteriorating. A further 3 months passed and still no insight into what was happening with his body. Another CAT scan came and went, but to no avail. Aaron was still very much in the dark, and when your own body is failing, that can be a very scary place indeed. A further 6 months passed, and in August of 2013 he was admitted to a hospital for what can only be described as rigorous testing. Test after test flew by at a horrific speed, and the "we are not sure's" and "we have no ideas" started to pile up. Frustrated and tired, Aaron only had one thing on his mind. He wanted to know what it was. He wanted to name it so at least then he could know what was destroying his body. Then the news came. Aaron was diagnosed with Behcets syndrome. A syndrome that is rare in the Western world and is virtually unheard of in this form. He finally knew what was destroying his body, what had changed his life, and he was happy. Happy to just be able to call this monster by its true name. But this didn't mean it was going away. Chemotherapy started soon after. As the months passed, Aaron's condition slightly improved, and life looked like it might have a slim chance of returning to some sense of normality. That was until the wicked hand of fate struck Aaron once more. He started coughing blood again, struggling to breathe, and with a gargled choke he called for help. That weekend, he had one of his lungs removed entirely. Chemotherapy was stopped soon after, as Aaron has had the maximum amount of chemotherapy advisable, and so he began treatment with a new drug. As you can imagine, this whole ordeal has had some effect on how Aaron feels. Depression and anxiety are a daily struggle for him. He used to be a small business owner, a blue-collar worker, and now he has lost all that. He can barely afford the mortgage on his small condo, and his finances are waning fast. Soon he may lose his home on top of everything else he has already lost. His health, his wife, his job and business. So if you can spare even a few dollars to help Aaron, that would be really cool. But even if you can't, please share his story. Thank you for visiting the Uneventful Human blog. Goodbye.